Unpacking adds to an already established trend in indie games to create gameplay around trivial, mundane actions in the real world. Here, the idea was to bring life and meaning to the act of unpacking our belongings after moving to a new home. This is something that most people will have experienced in their lives, in some cases even if they never moved. There is something exciting about the act of opening packages, particularly if their content is unknown. If you doubt it, just think of how popular loot boxes became in gaming, or the subcultural phenomenon of unboxing videos. During a move, you probably know what is supposed to be in the packages, but then the potential excitement switches from revealing the content to imagining how it can be part of a new environment. Your belongings that previously had an established positional meaning now need to be re-evaluated, which can be interesting but also uncomfortable, while some people will be indifferent. Unpacking decides to approach these feelings mostly as exciting, with a few caveats here and there. How much you appreciate the formula will depend heavily on how interesting you find the activity of organizing stuff around rooms, more often than not with reduced space, not allowing everything enough to breathe. People with compulsion for order will probably derive even more fun than they expect from the game, as they can attempt to optimize organization in every single environment the game presents. There is even an accessibility feature, removing the puzzle elements so you can organize the rooms however you like. I'll go back to it later. Another interesting feature of Unpacking is how comfortable the game is to present only minimal information about its story or the characters. Of course, in one sense we have a lot of information on the girl based not only on what she has in her packages, but also what carries over from time to time and what gets discontinued. It is not hard to understand the sequence of events as well, which is nonetheless very straightforward, but almost never imposing itself outside of gameplay. The girl goes through several stages in life, finding a new home at every step, and you share in the exploration of these spaces, but you discover which items each change brings only as you unpack. The story is told through gameplay, at first by the player noticing details about the pieces within the boxes and the rooms that should be filled, with the final screen for each level being a photo of your organization followed by a quick one-sentence comment by the girl, which mostly confirms your general suspicions but never dwells in them either. Usually, lack of information on the main character in games is used to provide a sense of identification, to make the players feel like they are the ones being portrayed, inviting them to approach any situation as they would in real life. In Unpacking though, there are too many details for that to happen, so you cannot really think this can be my room when you are organizing someone else's belongings. Even more so in my case, as I was never a girl with an amazing assortment of stuffed animals. And this is something the puzzle framing really takes as granted. Although the game is reasonably lenient in how you organize things, not forcing you to go into perfect placements of every object, there are rules here. Some are sensible, like not leaving pans or toothbrushes on the floor, while some seem relatively arbitrary, like the position of a drawing board in a room. Who is to say the girl does not prefer having the drawing board in her living room by the coffee table? Well, the game says so. This is why the accessible mode removing the puzzles from the game is so interesting. I would not call it an accessibility feature, however. Granted, it does make the game even easier and potentially much faster and shorter, but it works more as a creative mode. You can leave everything on the floor like a messed up person, or compulsively organize your kitchen appliances to be on display while you lock your condiments and seasonings in the drawers. The only limits now are the spaces the game provides. Although you still have no control over the belongings themselves, so you always have to find a way to fit the entire chicken family, this mode more closely approximates life and its possibilities, while the puzzle ends up forcing some tidiness that, while usually enjoyable to view and experience, is not necessarily the target for the whole of our lives. However, this is not to say that puzzles in this game are without purpose. As they force the player to find the appropriate spots for objects until the story can proceed, they also provide opportunities for significant moments conveyed through gameplay. In other words, challenges breed meaning to the activities in a game, and it is no different with Unpacking. Sadly, there are only a couple of occasions when that happens, and I would not spoil them if you're considering playing the game for yourself. But that be said, I was looking for more situations where my inability to get the puzzle right from the get-go was actually an opportunity to provide glimpses into the characters' emotions, events in their lives, etc., beyond the meaning already made obvious by the room's layouts and the objects in the boxes. Other missed opportunities are related to representing other aspects of moving and unpacking as human activities. I do not think the game would benefit from becoming a moving simulator, but simple touches could go a long way, like seeing some objects sustaining considerable damage from the moving itself, something obviously missing in the packages like the matching refrigerator magnets, or a simpler level where your goal is to actually pack your belongings in preparation for another move. There were many possibilities that went unexplored, although it certainly is nice to find new apartments having dedicated space for some items that were harder to fit satisfactorily in previous homes. Unpacking aimed for and achieved a cozy, heartwarming tone overall, with only a couple of curveballs and working towards a happy ending from the start, so maybe extra frustrations could detract from that goal. In my opinion, it is always better to sacrifice tone and story for more interesting gameplay, and I think it could be done here even without much of a sacrifice, but that is just me. Ultimately, the game is the Zen puzzle it aspired to be, as described by the developers at Which Being, and it balanced its difficulty and situations accordingly. The best compliment I can give Unpacking is that it made me think, mostly about how games are unique in their ability to produce meaning while requiring someone other than the artist to give their input. In the end, how much you appreciate the game will depend on your package. If you are like me and desire to see some of the messiness in life represented through gameplay, you might find this too decorative. But if you wish to see how a game can be heartwarming without having to hammer it all over the furniture, I would recommend Unpacking this one.